guys, welcome to Truth Talkin Thursday. This is Jim. I'm Jane. Jim and I have just been sitting here chatting for a little bit, and what's kind of been on our mind is what are we leaving our kids? What impressions are we creating for them as far as what creates a normal world? I feel more that it comes down to us as individuals. So it comes down to, who am I and who do I want to be? Am I where I want to be? And if I'm not, what am I going to do to get where I want to be? As experiences happen in your life, you change your outlook, you change how you view things, and you change how you do things too. And that's okay, there's nothing wrong with that. I think sometimes though, in that process, when you feel maybe forced to change things, you lose something that maybe you don't want to lose. The realization now, I know that we've spoke about this before, my struggle with the difference between spirituality and religion. And it was something that caused me to stumble, I guess I would say, in my views and what I allowed in myself. And I'm seeing now the importance of possibly taking some time to just sit down quietly and review what actually is most important to me. My values, my morals, my principles, all of those things that guide us and direct us to a life that we can feel peaceful and comfortable in.
Thinking along that line of cause and effect, and when we were talking earlier about what kind of a world are we going to hand over to our kids, I mean, the next generation coming up is certainly not the same as the generation that's leaving the earth. It's no secret, I think we're more violent as a kind of a society now. Things are happening in Canada in little towns and cities. We were just talking about a little town that we live in, and how sort of violent it's gotten, or how disturbed it's gotten in terms of what's happening basically with kids. A fella got punched in the face the other day, right out in broad daylight, because I guess a couple of people disagreed with what he said. I mean, normally that just doesn't happen, certainly here, but it's happening here, and that's a respected business member, yeah, of our community. Yeah. Who and a couple weeks previous to that, there was a kid that was beat up by 5 other kids. 5 on 1. Yeah. Kid got stabbed. Yeah. So, and it's not just Port Colborne where we live. It's everywhere. I watch the news, and it's the day. There isn't a day that goes by that somebody in Toronto, for instance, doesn't get shot, stabbed, or run over by a car. And every day.
And how can we accept this? How can we act like, oh, whatever?
Well, for me, what's changed? What's happened? It's a general sort of feeling or malaise, or there's a general kind of acceptance to the fact that might is right. And if I got a bigger problem, I'll just go and get a bigger gun.
If you feel it, let it go.
Yeah. And so when I look at that, I think about how do we counter that? I mean, again, I probably look at it differently than Jane in that I'm a cause and effect guy, but when I think about how deteriorated TV programming has become, the fashion business, the music business, rap music, oh, please don't tell me that it's a music, and it's wonderful stuff. It's horrible stuff. The way they depict women, the violence that's suggested in it's not the music part of it itself, it's the lyrics that go along with it, and the acceptance that that's okay. We've gotten to a point where we accept the idea that violence is the way to solve our problems.
We've turned something that used to shock us, we now laugh at.
Yes, exactly. The things that used to just astound us, we go, so.
It's become common, it's become accepted.
Desensitized to a lot of it. People don't understand why there's so much violence towards women, because we've gotten used to the idea that nobody really cares about that, except for the women who are being brutalized and all that sort of stuff. And I'm not saying, please, I'm not saying that it's okay by any stretch. It's not okay by any stretch. But as a group, as a society, it's sort of become acceptable in some ways. The pendulum has swung so far one way and now it's swung so far the other way. It'll settle in the middle someplace where reason takes over.
But what's going to happen in order for us to get to that point where we get to the voice of reason again? What's it going to take?
Yeah.
And as we started out this video, what message are we sending our children? What are we giving our children? And I don't think we're sending them the right message when issues of importance aren't resolved in an acceptable manner. And by an acceptable manner, I mean we can't just say, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Or we can't just say, oh, well, we're going to arrest them and charge them, but nothing ever happens.
Right.
It can't be that. There has to be, as Jim said, a cause and effect. If you do this, this will happen.
This will happen.
And then furthermore, if that gets done, then that needs to happen.
We used to teach our children by the messages that we sent them or we gave them, and now we don't say anything anymore about this stuff. We're sending them a message by the messages that we're not sending them anymore.
Silence can be acceptance too.
Yes.
Silence sometimes is the best way to handle some things.
Sometimes.
Some things. But in issues of great magnitude, it's always best to verbalize.
Yeah.
That's what I've found.
When we don't tell our kids that violence is wrong, then they assume that it's okay because we haven't said anything. We haven't sent them a message saying, you can't do this. That's not the way we take care of our business. And if we don't send them that message, they assume that it's okay, and they just carry on.
Exactly.
Two things for me. School systems need to step up. We need to revamp them. We need to reform them. We need to transform them, not reform them. Because they have our kids 8 hours a day in a lot of cases. They see our kids more than we do as parents. So, and then the parents, we've got to, as a parental group, we need to step up and start taking some responsibility for what's happening with our kids and the violence.
I totally agree with that. I think that much of this all starts with thinking for yourself and verbalizing matters of importance. I think that is extremely, extremely important if we're going to succeed and if we're going to change what's wrong about right now. I think we have to learn to think and communicate, and that's how true change begins. And it starts in here,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but we also have to work together. And I think that's what has to happen.
Yeah.
So have a great week.
Thanks for stopping by.